It's so weird that there are reps that people clamor for, like the Travis Scotts, that they can't get 100% right. Meanwhile, they make these GR reps so fucking good. What's up, sneaker people? Welcome to today's video. We are featuring the Jordan 3 Reimagined white cement. A lot of people, this was their 2023 shoe of the year, despite the Jordan 4 SB being a fan favorite. A lot of purists and I would say, you know, even normal people definitely have an argument that these could be and are the shoe of the year. And just like with all of those kind of high heat, high attention shoes, I like to do continual updated videos so that you guys can see what's on the current market and giving you guys an updated real versus fake video. But before we get into the video, let's get down to business. Join the Discord, Saturday Morning Losers Club, where you can reach me directly. I see a lot of people try to reach out to me via email. That is not the place to reach out to me. Join the Discord, find me, talk to me. That's where we can have an open discussion about your needs, your concerns, specifically around legit checking. I want to help you guys with that email address. I don't check it often, and it's not the place to reach me if you are looking for legit checking tips. So please join the Discord. Link is in the description. And the next thing, I would really appreciate for anybody watching this video to please make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Take a look at my last video, which features the Travis Scott Jordan 6 olives. Similar to this video, I did an updated, refreshed legit checking guide because it had been a very long time since I had actually gotten a hold of those shoes and have done a real versus fake. So please show some love, check that out, leave a comment. And finally, if you want to see more pictures of these shoes, specifically the reps, the details, the things that I'm going to point out in this video, please head over to the account that is popping up on the screen. You can go to that account, you can ask questions, you can dig and dive into the details of the shoe from there so that you know exactly what you're looking for when you're trying to do your legit checking and your comparison. So, and again, if you want to actually talk more about the legit checking aspect of this, follow me on here and hit me up in the Discord. So with all that said, let's get into the shoes and let's start talking about where things have changed and updated and all of that good stuff. And we're going to start with the box. So unboxing this and getting it next to my retail box, I'm pleasantly surprised to see that they've definitely been updating things. There's some things that are still a little bit off, but they're definitely getting a lot closer when it comes to the overall appearance of the box. And outside of the usual stuff that I tell people to look at when it comes to the box label and the text differences between that, I won't dive too deeply into that. Just remember, guys, if you have a pair of shoes that you suspect is fake, just find another pair that has the same style box label and compare the text. Retail text is going to be consistent. You're going to see the same thickness of the lettering. You're going to see the same font style and everything on every retail box that has the same box label. So please look at that, compare the text. If you see something is off, 99.999% of the time you're looking at a fake, or at least a fake box. But when it comes to the Jordan 3 Reimagined, the most important part that you got to look at when you're legit checking is the simulated fading that happens all around the box and the box lid. Take a look at, I'm calling them images, but that's what they are. It's these little aspects here, and it's usually the easiest way to tell the difference when you are legit checking based on the box. You can see, let's see if I can find a simple aspect to locate. Let's talk about this right here. You see on the authentic box here on the left that there is this aspect here that is, look at the details. Right? You see the speckles, you see the simulated fading. And while the rep box, which I'm pulling up right now, has a similar shape, you can see the detail on the left for the authentic is just more detailed, if that makes sense, right? You can see more fading, more texture, more speckling throughout, while here it's definitely muted out. This looks like they photocopied this and then tried to put it onto the replica box just to simulate it, but you could definitely tell that they're different. And the same thing goes to this aspect here. When you look at like this fading portion over here, you can just see that it's weird. The details are definitely more defined and vivid on the rep box, and they're more faded and just looking a little bit more natural when it comes to the effect that they're trying to go. And that is the same across the entire box. Like I said, you could see it here up on the top. Look at the detail on the authentic, and then you compare it to the less detail on the rep. It's just an easier way to legit check just based off of the box, and you should be able to do this simply based on pictures. Same thing goes for this aspect here, and that matching detail over here. You can just see that they are different. They're different. They're definitely copied from the same blueprint, but the rep is just a little bit different. And from there, the more subtle changes or the more subtle things you can look at is the replica emblem for the Jumpman logo is definitely more vibrant, while the authentic is just a bit more muted and darker of a red. But other than that, there's not really much to look at when it comes to the box. Pay attention to those fading details and you'll be able to legit check very, very easily. The next thing to look at is this little pamphlet that comes with the authentic pair. It's always folded like this, and it also has faded details on the cover of it as well. When you pull out the rep, every rep that I have seen has always been unfolded like this. This is definitely improvement on older pairs, because older pairs had this out of a thick like index card style paper, but this is definitely more flimsy and mirrors retail a little bit more. But the easiest way to tell the difference here is by comparing the styling and the overall effect of the fading on the paper here. Look at the authentic here on the bottom. They have almost completely gotten this fading off, or it's off center. Take a look at the elephant print here on the right side. They look completely different, so much darker on the right with almost no fading at all. And overall, the actual width of the authentic pamphlet is wider than on the rep. You can definitely see differences in the font and thickness of the print as well. Look at the elephant print on the pamphlet of the rep compared to the authentic. So much darker, so much bolder. So it's good to see that there are still things that you can tell based on the box and the accessories that come in. But now let's see what has translated in updates when it comes to the shoes themselves. Here we have both of the shoes. The left is my worn authentic pair. You can see that I have definitely been enjoying these. I've probably got about 7 or 8 wears on these so far, and they're holding up pretty well. I take care of my shoes. I don't walk like an asshole, so my shoes tend to hold up pretty well if the shoe is of decent quality, and these thankfully are of decent quality. But side by side, we have the rep. I think one of the things that I want to point out right from the start is that the elephant print is different on the rep compared to the authentic pair, but that's okay because the elephant print varied drastically on the authentic pairs. I prefer this thinner style looking elephant print, and luckily that's what I got. This is more reminiscent of the original Jordan 3s that came out, but there are definitely versions out there of retail pairs that have thicker elephant print, and that matches more of what we've seen in more modern times when it comes to the Jordan 3. So that's not something that you can point to. Another thing that you can't point to, unfortunately, is the color difference in the midsole paint. Depending on the factory, these came in a variety of different shades. Some were lighter, some were darker. So unfortunately, I can't do a direct comparison on that, but you can see here that the rep is definitely very close to the authentic pair, but the rep being a little bit lighter, which is completely within retail range. So I cannot say that those are things that you can look to in terms of legit checking. But what we can do is we can look at the other details of the shoe in terms of shape, in terms of quality and color, and see what we can find. So first things first, when I like to do these comparisons, I just try to do a brief look at what stands out to me. And the first thing that stands out to me that shouldn't is we have this very apparent stitching that goes around the elephant print. You can see that it almost has a contrast with the elephant print itself and goes all the way around. It's got a shimmer to it, while the authentic pair definitely has a more subtle of a stitch. It's not as thick, and it doesn't stand out as much when contrasted to the elephant print. You can see that. Putting them side by side, there's definitely a difference there. I would say there's definitely a little bit of a tonal difference too when it comes to the color of the elephant print. This is more of a cooler gray as opposed to this warmer gray, I should say, on the authentic. You would see this in earlier Jordan 3 white cement and black cement releases, as well as true blue, but that could also be something that varies. But pay attention to that. The more important thing here is looking at the stitch and how it compares to the authentic. And this is definitely a thicker stitch. But one thing that I can say is that reps have absolutely crushed it when it comes to the elephant print now. If you look, it is very, very, very close to the authentic. Actually, the rep is a little bit slimmer than the authentic, which is not something that you see very often. Usually you would see on Jordan 3 reps where this part right here would go all the way out here and it would look terrible and disgusting, but the rep has actually gotten it very close, which is dangerous. Please pay attention to other reps where they don't get that right, but here, definitely within retail range. But you can also take a look at the overall build of the shoe. Height wise, panel wise, all of the cuts look very close. Now, when it comes to the materials, they do feel identical. Uppers feel exactly the same. I would say maybe my authentic pair feels a little bit softer on the upper, but that might be because they're worn. Now that we've talked about that, there are little idiosyncrasies that I like to look at that shouldn't be different where I start to pick up on the reps. And the first thing being the color of these eyelets here. These aged off-white eyelets, they're supposed to match the midsole paint. When you compare them together, you can see that there is almost a fleshy tone to the rep when compared to the paleness of the authentic pair. You see that how it ties in very closely to the midsole paint. Every rep that I've seen, and you can review my old videos, it's pale, it's pink, it's fleshy. That should not be the case, and that usually translates to the back plastic as well. You can see that very close, but the rep is just a little bit darker. Height wise, they look very good. Shape wise, they look very good. Definitely one of the better reps that I've seen. The other thing that I like to take a look at when I am looking at these is the colors of the stuff that like stand out to me, and that's like the tongue liner here. You can see that on the rep, the tongue liner is definitely a little bit darker, while on the authentic pair, it's more vibrant, almost like approaching orange, like a fire red. Well, it's definitely more of a traditional team red there, which is interesting. One of the things that I do notice on reps as well, and I pointed this out in other videos, there seems to be very more prominent track lines in the sock liner and the tongue. And you can look at when these were dead stock, they were definitely not as apparent as these anyway, but that's one of the things that I like to look at. Same thing on the Jordan 4s as well. When I say track lines, I mean these like horizontal lines that encompass the shoe, the inside of the shoe, especially on the white sock liner, you can see it. When you look at the authentic pair, it's definitely there, but it's not the same. I don't know if this is just a pattern that's made on the sewing machine or whatever, how they're manufacturing the fabric, but you can see it a little bit more prominently on the tongue, but definitely still more apparent on the rep. And when I look at that red, I also want to take a look at the tongue as well to see how they match up in color. And again, I see not only is the size of the Jumpman just a little bit bigger on the rep than it is on the authentic, ever so slightly. The colors are definitely different too, and it matches very much so like the differences in the tongue. It's a darker red here on the rep, more of a team red, and it's definitely more fire red on the authentic pair here on the left. You guys can see how that goes off there. And that same idea is here on these little red lace holes as well. Darker red on the rep, brighter, more vibrant red on the authentic. So it's always been the slight differences like that when it comes to the authentic pairs versus the reps, and you can see some of that is still the same. I don't know why these are challenges that rep factories can't overcome, but that's good because even though they are subtle and they're hard to pick up on, especially if you don't have an authentic pair, if you are legit checking, there are things that you can look for. So that is still very good. Keep in mind contextually that there will be differences when it comes to, specifically only when it comes to the midsole paint and the elephant print. Everything else should be the same in terms of color. So when you pull out things like the insoles, there should not be a color difference, right? You can still see, again, very vibrant on my authentic, not so much, a little bit muter, duller of a red, very much so mirroring the inside tongue liner again. So it's like the reds are something that these reps struggle with. Why? Again, I have no idea, but those colors are very good touchstones to making sure that you can maintain and identify authentic pairs when compared to reps. It's always helpful to have an authentic pair on hand, and I try my very, very best to film these videos as brightly as I can so I can emphasize those color differences and those contrasts. But obviously, if you are out there solo and someone tries to sell you this, it would be very, very, very difficult to tell the difference without having an authentic pair there. So hopefully some of these things that I'm pointing to can help. The last thing that I want to do is I'm just going to do a very, very quick, brief black light test, and we'll see if there's anything that pops up. So when we do the black light test, we're looking for things that glow. When it comes to these Jordan 3s, it's the under layer, under those dots that glow brightly. And you can see the under layer underneath the panels as well, glows pretty brightly. Other than that, there's not much outside of maybe some glue that glows. The inside of the air bubble also glows, and nothing much else really is that apparent that is that reactive. So when I bring this over to the rep, I should not see much that glows. So glue, we're expecting, that makes sense. The under layer underneath these perforated dots, definitely, that makes sense. I'm getting a lot of glowing out of the inner sock liner, the white inner sock liner. Did we see that on the authentic? No, we did not. So let's take a look at this side by side. So side by side, you see the complete difference in how these sock liners light up. Look at that. Look how brightly that reacts on the rep. And the authentic, all you're seeing is a glow, right? Like a glow, not a reaction, a glow. It's hard to really position this with one hand, but look at that. So that is a huge thing, a huge tell. Laces glowing up here on the reps. No reaction out of the laces on the authentic pair. So another thing, is there a reaction out of the... So interesting, no reaction out of the inner parts of the panels, but when you look at the authentic pair, it glows. So definitely some tells on the authentic. So that inner panel here where the laces are should be lighting up. And while it is being, it's being lit by the light, it's not being reactive like the authentic pair is. So definitely a worthwhile black light test. Granted, nobody's really going to come at you with a black light, but definitely a very, very, very good legit checking indicator. Let's get the lights back on and wrap up this video. So overall, while these look very, very, very similar just off the bat, there are some differences that we were able to find. The reds, there's slight differences there. The muted color or the color of the lace loops, definitely some differences there. And most importantly, the blacklight test actually showed a lot of differences that I was not expecting to see. So I'm glad that we do those things so that we can figure out what is going on. So other than that, very, very solid, good legit checking indicators. I'm very impressed by these, but still you are very safe to buy as long as you are following the steps. So with all that said, guys, remember, go to the Instagram account on the screen so that you can find as many detailed images as you want, so you can focus in on the things that I didn't focus in on. And I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.